the members of Parliament beforehand for all of your questions. Before I pass the floor on to you, Minister Arian, I would like to pose a couple questions myself, because I'd like to paint a picture a little bit for the public when it comes to our tax system and structure here. Since 2010, we delved, or we shifted into where we determine our own tax percentages once we moved out of the Netherlands Antilles. And since then, it was in 2012, we started off on the same level. So St. Martin, and I'll go specifically on profit tax. St. Martin started off at a profit tax of 34.5% when it came to companies. And since then, Curaçao had adjusted theirs back in 2012 to somewhere around 25%, between 25 and 27%, until last year where it's down now to 22%. So the point that I'm trying to make is, you see from 2010, since we shifted our status, it moved from 34.5% in Curaçao to 22%. We have stayed at the same level. So just for clarification purposes, this is why you will hear me publicly saying that our tax system sometimes is a little bit absurd. And it's absurd because here we are encouraging small businesses to exist, and you have done a significant amount of job, Minister, a significant amount of work in tandem with other ministries to really promote the development of the SMEs, the micro, small, and medium SMEs. But our absurd tax system makes it really difficult for them to thrive, really difficult for them to succeed, because when they go and they register as a company, they are hit with advice that would come to them saying, hey, I know that most of us want to go into businesses for ourselves because the purpose is to make money, but you see, when you have this amount of profit tax and when you have this amount of TOT, it's absurd. That's my reason for it being absurd. You have to pay 5% TOT on your monthly revenues, and then at the end of the year, you have to pay 34.5% profit tax. So the absurdity of our system, it makes it really uninviting to want to invest here. So we have this contradiction that we're trying to make it attractive for investors. We're trying to make it attractive for persons that are going into business on their own for the first time, yet the absurdity of the system makes it very difficult to succeed. With that being said, I will share the stories with you numerous times, on numerous occasions, and again in the future. I have had stories directly in my role when I sat over there as a Minister of TEAT, and still to this day, that persons are being advised by their accountants, by their account advised managers, that when they're doing their tax assessments, that they shouldn't make this much profit because they have so much so much taxes to pay. Do you understand the absurdity of our system? You are being advised when you're trying to go into business on your own to not disclose this much. And I know I'm saying something that is borderline a little bit almost bold, but that is the reality of the tax structure and the tax regime that we exist in. And what I would like to know is, we are in the year 2023. Knowing that we have changed since 2010, why has it taken so long to even adjust anything? This is not directly at you only, Minister. It is looking at the entire 13 years or 12 and a half years since we changed our structure. A simple thing as what you were saying in your proposal of eliminating land tax, lowering wage tax. There's so many things that we could have done to assist our community. Multiple times in a Committee of Finance meeting, everyone has heard me say that taxes are what we pay for civilized society. The reason we have a disgruntled community here is because the ones who are actually paying, don't really see a return on their taxes being paid because we have crappy roads. They don't see enough investment in our infrastructure. They are complaining about the education system. I can go on and on and on, Minister. So when you do give us these answers, I would really like to get to understand why it's taken so long for anything to happen. By all means, I will go back to your various measures, which I hope that you will share with the public, because it's also not what we received here to start. And just like the last MP who spoke said, give us a little bit more information on it, because there's some things here that would receive a lot of support because it would help improve the lives of our people here. But I want to be realistic in actually implementing them, in making them actionable, because the last time we had any significant reform or discussion being provided was in 2015, and to date, nothing's been done. Nothing's been done to that big staple of paper that went to the government building, talking about the same various measures that you presented here today, because they're not new ideas. They're absolutely not new ideas. They're just a regurgitation of stuff that has not been able to be assessed and enforced or even actioned on. So that's what I want us to be realistic on what our deliverables are. I want to say something about tax exemptions. What I will ask you again for a little bit more clarification, because in the various measures you mention the withdrawal of land tax, the exemption transfer tax first homeowners, and as well as abolishment of inheritance and gift tax. I just want us to see if we could, when we come back in, Minister, I would make a suggestion that perhaps you give an example of those. Because when you were talking about an inheritance perhaps being land, which goes to a land transfer tax, I just want us to walk through the example for public consumption as well. Because for us, we're used to this discussion for public consumption since we have all these meetings public, that you can go into that a little bit more. Another thing that I heard today, several members of Parliament have mentioned an economic recovery plan. The plan that I presented while I was Minister of TEAT was a path to economic recovery. And the suggestion in that path to economic recovery is about indirect taxes. That's what it was about. So if we're going to keep talking about a transfer tax, I really wish sometimes that when I was there, it was brought up as much as it did. But alas, we are where we are today. But I want you to explain that the ease in which we exist is to go to indirect taxes. That's what should be happening for our collection purposes. I heard a member of Parliament said taxing the untaxed. I think when we're looking at revenue collection for this country, we have to keep in balance what we are providing to our citizens as well as what we are collecting. So to make it a little bit more fair, and when you're talking about taxing the untaxed, it makes it look as if you're going after people who don't pay. The reality here is that you've always heard people say that the same people pay taxes over and over and over and over again. Our system, Minister, we know we have been waiting for this tax reform meeting for quite some time. Our system needs to be revamped. It is 12 years too late for it. And I hope that in the short term, when we go over our various measures, you take into consideration the reality of our existence today, after Hurricane Irma, after COVID-19. And the last thing that we do is to make lives harder for our citizens by imposing more taxes just to increase revenue without thinking of where our breaks come in. Thank you very much,